Oh, good morning and welcome. I hope you didn't have any trouble finding the first ever virtual Be Loud breakfast. You certainly can't beat the commute. I'm Marilyn Sharon, Board Secretary for KCSARC. In both my personal and professional life, I've known victims of sexual assault and struggled to find ways to help them. I was therefore happy when I was asked to join the KCSARC board. I've been a proud KCSARC board member since 2017. Although this year's venue has changed, the need to support KCSARC and all of their programs that support survivors of sexual assault and their families has not. In fact, now more than ever, KCSARC needs your loud voice and your bold action. As the world was told it was safer at home and basic health services scrambled to figure out how to carry out their programs and connect with their clients, KCSARC services and programs were never interrupted, not for one day. What happens when safer at home doesn't apply to everyone? KCSARC is still there. So join me in speaking up and supporting the survivors of sexual assault. Join me in making the difference in the lives of survivors of sexual assault by making sure the invaluable programs and services continue no matter what challenges face us in the future. Well, clearly, my coffee is kicking in. I hope yours is too, because it's time to be loud. The breakfast is about to begin. I'll see you there.
Good morning, and thank you, Marilyn, for your support of KCSARC. Welcome, everyone, to the 32nd Annual Be Loud Breakfast and KCSARC's first ever virtual breakfast. I'm Margot Myers, and I'm happy to be emceeing this event for the 18th year. To begin our journey today, we invite you to join us in acknowledging the land on which we stand. Here to lead us is KCSARC's Executive Director, Mary Ellen Stone.
Thanks, Margot, and thank all of you for joining us today. Many of you know that KCSARC's main office is located in Renton, and we serve all of King County. Through our programs, we serve and work with Indigenous people and collaborate with Indigenous organizations. We want to honor those relationships and be a part of combating the erasure of Indigenous history. So we wish to acknowledge the land that we're standing on today as the unceded traditional home of the Coast Salish, the Stillaguamish, the Duwamish, the Suquamish, the Tulalip, and the Muckleshoot people. These acknowledgments don't fulfill our obligations to an authentic relationship with Indigenous communities, but they serve as a step in honoring the land that we're on. Thank you for joining me in this.
Thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you for joining us online from wherever you are. We are so pleased to have so many first-time and returning attendees. Now, for some housekeeping to take care of before we begin this morning. First, congratulations, because you've actually made it to this platform today. One of the most exciting features of our virtual venue is the ability to chat with your fellow guests. So here's how you can do this. You can scroll down to sign on and begin chatting. So this video is dynamic. That means it will move with you as you scroll down the page to chat. Second, if you need access to our live captioning, click the link below this video or in the chat. And also, if you have technical issues during the program, please email beloud@kcsarc.org. A KCSARC staff member will be available to help you. And finally, the reason that we are here to join hands in supporting survivors of sexual assault. Later in the program, you'll hear from a KCSARC board member who will invite you to invest in this important work. But it is never too early to give. You can start right now by filling out the donation form to the right of your video, right there on the event page, or you can text the code BELOUD to 44321. Now, if you want to make a pledge, you can email your name and the gift amount to beloud@kcsarc.org, and a member of our team will confirm that we received it. All right, now on with the program. We do have a lot of people to thank. First, special thanks to all of our team captains. You are such an inspiring bunch. You are really the engine that drives the success of this event each and every year. We are grateful for your leadership and commitment to supporting survivors of sexual assault, especially those of you who have championed this event and the survivors KCSARC serves for more than 10 years. Also, thank you to the dignitaries and the elected officials who have joined us today. We are honored by your attendance. Your leadership and ongoing support help bring visibility and make a huge difference for the survivors in our community. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. After having to cancel last year's breakfast and pivoting to rethink how to sustain critical programming and services during this pandemic, I am so proud to report that despite everything that has happened over the last year, KCSARC never needed to press pause in providing services to survivors and their families, not even for one single day. So how did KCSARC do that, you might wonder? Well, we did it with supporters like you. You can make a big difference for survivors of sexual assault and their families by committing today to support KCSARC's 32nd annual Be Loud breakfast. As many of you know, Be Loud is that rallying cry that encourages KCSARC supporters, the staff, clients, and leaders to speak up about sexual assault, to raise their voices to demand safer communities for everyone, to advocate for public policies that recognize and respond to trauma, and to promote research-based prevention programming that strives to prevent sexual violence. Know that every person that you will hear from is advocating for change each and every day in their own way. So let's hear now from some of our courageous Be Loud advocates.
I am loud for educating our next generation about sexual abuse and the way trauma affects the brain. I am loud for reframing how teachers and parents instruct their kids about sexual assault, rape, and trauma in a way that educates and does not shame. Focusing on the perpetrator and sex offender behavior and how they operate is paramount in combating sexual abuse.
I am loud for those who feel isolated and alone, to let survivors know they are heard, believed, supported, and loved.
I am loud because I was sexually abused by my stepfather when I was 11 and 12 years old. I had no idea that organizations like KCSARC even existed and therefore never sought help. We all need to be extremely loud about the amazing work that everyone at KCSARC navigates every single day. They are the true heroes amongst us. Thank you, KCSARC, for making the difference between surviving and thriving for all victims.
Thank you, Sarah, Councilmember Balducci, and Sherry. What a show of strength and solidarity, and we appreciate all of you for what you do. Now, since we're virtual, we're streaming this, you might notice a few pauses in your live stream, so what you might want to do is just refresh your computer or your laptop or your device every few minutes if you're noticing that. Hopefully we'll work through that, but this is, it's all new for us too, right? So just do a refresh every once in a while. So, to continue our program, you may know this is one of the most important events that you will attend all year. Why? We'll take a look at the life-changing services that KCSARC offers survivors and their families in our community.
Mi historia que voy a contar es de un abuso que sufrieron mis hijas. Ellas no podían hablar, porque si ellas hablaban, la hermanita chiquita y su mamá iban a desaparecer. Cuando me enteré del abuso de mis hijas, ya no hallaba yo qué hacer. Yo sentía que yo caminaba, iba, venía, pero no encontraba yo ni a dónde caminar, ni qué hacer. Que uno no puede hablar el inglés. Está uno como si está mudo. Mis preocupaciones cuando yo me enteré del abuso eran cómo las niñas iban a salir de esa gran preocupación, de ese gran problema mental que ellas ya tenían. Se me hacía bien difícil creer que ellas se iban a sanar. Me dijeron, hable a este número y en este número le van a ayudar. Allí decía en el papel amarillo, dando voz, que no habían pasado ni 2 horas cuando me cayó la llamada y me dijo, somos del dando voz. Desde que empecé a llegar a terapias con ella, ahí fue donde yo dije, no, si yo no falto, si yo estoy ahí, si yo la llevo, ella va a mejorar. Fue una gran ayuda. Qué rápido ellas empezaron a avanzar. Fue la ayuda más grande que había encontrado. ¿Quién me iba a ayudar? A que ellas salieran de donde ellas estaban hundidas. Fueron 2 largos años que viví semana a semana ahí en corte. Pero como les digo, con la gran compañía que yo encontraba, o sea, sentía que no iba yo sola, que yo iba bien acompañada. Me siento muy orgullosa de cómo ellas han salido adelante, han logrado superar todo lo que en un momento llegué a pensar que no lo íbamos a lograr. Hasta que uno no llega ahí y llega a ver todo junto, uno no se da cuenta de todo lo que puede llegar a lograr. Gracias por apoyar a los sobrevivientes. Su apoyo hace una gran diferencia, así como ha hecho la mía.
Thank you, Elva, for sharing your story. You are not alone, and your experience illustrates the many ways that KCSARC is there for survivors and their families. So let's be loud for that. We want our clients and the community to know that KCSARC provides therapy, family support, legal advocacy, and other essential needs in English and in Spanish. KCSARC's 24-hour resource line is always available for immediate help, for information, or resources. That number, 1-888-99-VOICE. Now it is my pleasure to introduce an advocate and a supporter of KCSARC. Please welcome KCSARC board member Laura Swap. Laura?
Thank you so much, Margot. We know these are difficult times for everybody. But just imagine struggling to heal from sexual assault or abuse amid all this chaos and uncertainty. The closures and restrictions touch so many aspects of our daily lives, and many survivors and families are experiencing hardships at this time, emotional, physical, and financial. That's why it's more important than ever to find a way to support KCSARC. As Margot previously mentioned, there are multiple ways to give today. You can fill out the donation form to the right of your video on the event page, or text the code BELOUD to 44321. If you want to make a pledge, email your name and gift amount to beloud@ksarc.org. Our team is standing by and will confirm that we've received it. Today is a great day to give. Thanks to a generous group of longtime supporters, donations today will be matched up to $107,000. We ask you to rise to meet the challenge of this moment.
That is awesome. Thank you, Laura. And with every gift you make this morning, you are being loud and showing us how much you support KCSARC and all of the survivors who are helped every single day. We're on a journey together today to be loud for survivors of sexual assault, and we want to make sure this community sees the progress that we're making together as we move through the event. So we have something new that we want to share with you today. So can I see the thermometer, please? There it is at the bottom of your screen, and you will see it's racing through all the numbers. It shows the number of donors, and look at that. We are almost at $400,000 of our goal of $600,000 raised today. So please, you can be one of our many, many donors, 625 donors so far. We thank you. You can give at any time throughout the program using one of the methods that Laura just mentioned. Now, this next group of KCSARC supporters is doing everything they can to make sure that KCSARC remains the beacon of strength and hope for the future. We asked them why they support KCSARC and how KCSARC has impacted their lives. Let's see what they have to say.
I support KCSARC because of the great work that they do and the work that needs to be done in our community by the people that are at KCSARC. They're courageous, they're amazing, and without them, so much important work would go undone. It's really important, and I will continue to support KCSARC for those reasons.
KCSARC gives a voice to victims and families, and over the years has helped change people's beliefs and attitudes about sexual assault.
I support KCSARC because of its mission to give voice to victims of sexual assault and their families, to instill courage in people to speak out about sexual assault. We have to speak about it to stop it. KCSARC also works to change systems that have too often inflicted further trauma and pain on victims and their families. Like KCSARC, I believe in the importance of changing systems and changing beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors about violence. I especially support the work of KCSARC today because during this pandemic, staying home hasn't meant staying safe for many women and children. It's a quiet crisis to which KCSARC is giving a voice, and I want to lend my voice in support. The health and safety of our entire community is dependent upon our using our voices.
And thank you, Monica, Mayor Pavoni, and Beth, for being champions of the important work that KCSARC does. We truly appreciate your efforts. As you advocate for services that help survivors in our communities heal, you really amplify what we do in the areas of prevention, for treatment, and even policy development. You should all know that there is hope and healing this morning, and our next speaker embodies both. She has faced unimaginable adversity with strength and determination. And her story is really a shining light of inspiration and of possibility. Please welcome KCSARC Speakers Bureau member Cindy in conversation with KCSARC's Deputy Executive Director, Deanne Yamamoto.
Hope, resilience, healing. Those are words and concepts that seem so far out of reach for many adult survivors of child sexual assault. I'm Deanne Yamamoto, Deputy Executive Director of King County Sexual Assault Resource Center. And I'm joined by Cindy, an amazing woman that I've had the honor of working with for the last little bit. Cindy, KCSARC considered it such a privilege to work with you and your family during your healing journey, and just filled with gratitude that you are here today to share your story with us. Thank you so much. I know, Cindy, that you're not one to want the limelight, to be the center of attention, and yet you are here sharing your story, a very personal story with us. Can you tell us what meaning that has for you?
Yeah, I think it's important for me to share my story because I spent a long time being silent about it. And I hope that in me sharing my story, I can hopefully help someone in some way if I can.
I'm sure you can. I think your story will resonate with a lot of survivors and teach us professionals on how to better support survivors of child sexual assault. So, very much appreciate you sharing your story. I want to take us back. You moved to the US when you were quite young, I think 3 years old. Can you reflect back on that time frame, moving to the US, a completely different country, and just what sort of transpired after that point? I know that's a long ways to go back and you were quite young.
I was really young, so I don't have a lot of memories of living in Honduras, but my earliest memories are of when we moved to the United States, and we moved in with a lot of family, so it was always a full house with a lot of cousins and uncles and aunts, and that's how I remembered growing up. And in those early stages of living here is my earliest memories of sexual abuse by my dad. I don't really know exactly when it started, but it seemed to be something that was always happening, and I didn't really understand what it was or what it meant. And it was also very confusing living with so many people. I wasn't sure if this was okay or if this wasn't okay, or if people knew, if it happened to other people, if it was just me. So it was pretty confusing just having to adjust to the new place and also having to live with what was happening to me with my dad.
I can't even imagine. I mean, that's heartbreaking for me to hear because you were 3 years old, and so abuse continuing on for many years, as I recall. There was a point where you ended up telling, and I don't know that it was purposeful, but something was going on in your life that compelled you to say something. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I was about 11 years old. I was in the 5th grade, and I had heard that my parents might be getting a divorce, might be separating. So I didn't know what divorce was either, wasn't sure about that. And so I went down to the counselor's office to speak to my counselor, and she handed me a bunch of books about divorce, and it had illustrations. And I remember just reading through these books, and they showed that sometimes kids spent one weekend with their mom and the next with their dad, or sometimes one went with one parent, one with the other. And I guess when I was reading this, that's when it actually just really hit me. My little sister was 2 years old at the time, and so just seeing this, I just started thinking, what did this mean for us? Did this mean that I could be alone with him for a weekend? Did this mean that he would have access to my sister for a weekend? Or I wasn't really sure what it meant. And so in that moment, I didn't know what I was reporting. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I just felt like I needed to tell someone. And I told my counselor, just hoping that she would just make it stop, or she would just, find a solution for us so we can, so nobody would be put in danger.
3 years old to 11 years old when you're in the 5th grade and abuse is continuing. Well, telling the school counselor changed a lot of things for you. I mean, you were even confused about what it was, huh? But you made that report to your school counselor, and she's a mandated reporter, so she likely reported to Child Protective Services. And what happened next?
Yeah, so the school counselor did report to CPS, and CPS gave us a call. So I sat with the counselor and CPS and told them what I had told the counselor, and they had questions for me. And I didn't really know exactly what I was reporting. Didn't really know who I was speaking to either. I just was mostly just answering questions and letting them know, what I had let the counselor know. And I was still in school. I was a 5th grader. So, after that, I got picked up from school and let my mom know as much as I could what had happened and what I had told everyone else and what I suspected was going on. And she just pulled over and we just cried together. And that meant a lot to me because I'd never told anyone before that day. And meant a lot to me that, I had my mom's support and somebody to actually just, cry with me and listen to me and hear what I had to say.
That's a beautiful image, Cindy. Just getting that support that you need after telling and being believed after living in silence for so long. That's so important, and I'm glad that you were able to get that nurturing in that moment. So now CPS reports to law enforcement typically, and is that what happened next?
Yeah, so they did report to police officers. The next day I was in class again, and I was pulled out of class to go speak to police officers. And once I saw police officers, that really scared me because I felt like I was in big trouble, and I felt like I had gotten everybody else in trouble. And we were an undocumented family, so seeing police officers, I was, my first thought was, I got everybody in trouble, and now how am I going to get myself out of this? And so speaking to the police officers, my first thing that came to mind was just to try to take things back, try to minimize it as much as I could, or just take it back if I could. But I couldn't, because it was the truth. And, eventually I told them, and then things went on from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders at this point, and that's heavy weight for a fifth grader to carry. And it's at this time then that I think KCSARC got involved. Typically, law enforcement give referrals to KCSARC to do outreach calls. And so what do you remember about that moment?
KCSARC gave a call to my mom. They were able to call my mom in Spanish, which meant a lot because my mom didn't speak English. And they set us up with a child interview. So I had to tell my story again, but this time it was different because this time I had somebody with me, a legal advocate that accompanied me to the child interview. And it was still hard because I still didn't really understand what was going on. But having that support meant a lot, especially after I reported. My family didn't believe me, and my family immediately moved out, and it was just myself, my mom, and my sister. And so having that support from KCSARC and going through that process and not doing it alone was very meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm. That's so important, to get the support that you need, and I'm sorry that it was such an isolating time for you at the same time. What services did you end up getting that was helpful to you?
I started doing therapy, and my mom started doing parent education. So we were both going to KCSARC at the same time, and my mom was learning how to help me, and she was also learning this in her own language, which was really helpful. And I was doing therapy and just learning about what sexual abuse meant and what it was that had happened to me, and learning the terms, and finally putting, a word to what this was. And they helped me understand what had happened and what it meant, and that it wasn't my fault. Because up to this point, I felt like this was my fault. I felt like I was responsible for everything that had happened, for the police, and for anything that had happened. I felt like this was my doing, and therapy was essential to me being able to accept that this wasn't my fault, and being able to understand so I could move forward with my life, and my mom as well.
Carrying that blame is very difficult to do. And so I'm glad that that narrative was changed for you. So by now you're in the fifth grade getting counseling, and you felt like you were ready to leave counseling and sort of move on in your middle school life. I know that things got rough for you in high school, though. Can you reflect back on those years?
Yeah, I left counseling when I was about 13, and I just continued on, finished middle school, started high school, and as I got older, I guess these memories started having different meaning to me, and I started having more memories and flashbacks and nightmares of things that had happened, and that I felt like I was over it, but it started just really piling up on me, and I continued to try to ignore it, but it was something that was just really overpowering and taking over my life. And I was just really sad all the time and really feeling helpless. And I didn't want to go back to therapy because I felt like it meant that I had failed. But it was time to, let KCSARC help me again and let them be there for me and support me, because I really did need that guidance to help me, change and better myself. And so I went back to therapy again when I was about a sophomore. And this time therapy was a lot different. It was more, I had the terms, I understood what had happened to me, but I needed help to, just understand myself, understand that this wasn't my fault, even though they told me before, those feelings come back. And I never felt like my body was really my own. I didn't really feel like myself. Like I had been, I had always grown up with somebody having, taken that from me. And going to therapy that second time around, I was able to feel like myself, feel like, I was my own, and it took a lot, and it was really difficult, and it took a lot of patience, but I was able to do that, and I was able to finish therapy and come out of it feeling, amazing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what you're describing is post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a pretty serious diagnosis, and you worked through a lot in that therapeutic process and had a great opportunity to be able to get support yet again. And I'm glad you were able to do that, and I'm glad you were brave enough and courageous enough to come back to KCSARC a second time. And where are you now? Keep us up to date and get us up to date on what's happening now.
So yeah, I ended up graduating high school, and one day I saw in a listing that KCSARC was hiring. I remember seeing it and just kind of thinking like, there's somebody out there who's really good for this job, not me. But then I thought, why not me? Maybe I could do this, and maybe I could, use my experience and be able to help other people. So I applied and I interviewed and I got the job. And, quickly when I started, I realized that this was really important to me, that I really could make a difference. And, I was picking up the phone, and a lot of people that were calling, it was their first time calling KCSARC. And so it meant a lot to me to be able to confidently tell them, you called the right place and you're going to be okay. And I could say that because I had been on the other side of that phone, and I had, experienced what they were experiencing, and I felt so much better. And it felt really good to be able to do that for other people.
We were so happy that you applied and that you got the job, because you answered the phone both in English and in Spanish. And so people had the opportunity to hear your voice and hear your just caring and compassionate nature on the other end of the phone. And that was thrilling to us. But now you've moved positions. What are you doing now?
I am part of the external relations team at KCSARC now. And we are in charge of, raising funds, but also raising awareness. And that's really important to me, is to be able to be a part of that and be able to help other people and get the word out, that we're here and we're ready to help you. And it feels so good to be a part of that now, because I used to sit on the other side. I used to sit in the hall, waiting for my appointments. And now I get to work alongside the people that were there for me. And it's really meaningful to me that I get to do something like this, and that I get to give back in the way that, the same way that KCSARC helped me.
Absolutely. I feel like your story has just gone full circle, right? In the beginning, where you were living in silence, and then have the opportunity to tell your story, now have the opportunity to share your story, now have opportunity to help and assist others and get awareness out there. I think that's an amazing story to tell. Is there one message that you would like to share with others who might be experiencing something similar as you did?
Yeah, what I hope that people listening to me today took away from this is that there is hope, and that they deserve to be surrounded by people who support them and believe them. And KCSARC is ready to do that for them. And all they need to do is, give us a call. And there's people here 24/7 ready for them and waiting for them to give us that call.
We're just so appreciative of you sharing with us today. Thank you so much.
Cindy, you are amazing. I had the pleasure of meeting Cindy about a year ago and hearing her story of inspiration and of possibility. And Cindy came really full circle in her journey of healing. She became the voice on the other end of a survivor's first phone call to KCSARC, providing them hope, which is truly extraordinary. And Cindy, I am so excited to see what you are going to do going forward. You are the epitome of strength and grace. Now, Cindy's story highlights a number of the invaluable resources that KCSARC provides with your generous support. The therapy and parent education in Spanish that Cindy's mother received, along with legal services, were provided all thanks to supporters like you. There are more survivors like Cindy out there who need our help. If you are inspired, you can make a gift right now. And now it's our turn as a community to truly be loud. Sometimes it's hard to comprehend how many people have been impacted by sexual assault, but seeing is believing. Each year at our in-person breakfast, we ask attendees to stand up if they or someone they know have been affected by sexual assault. It is a powerful moment when you have like 1,000 people in the room. So understandably, this is something we have to do a little differently this year. And even though we're not in person, we can still bear witness virtually. So if you or someone you know has been impacted by sexual assault, please join me in virtually standing up to honor them. So here's how we're going to do that. The instructions are on the screen. They're also in the chat below. And first, I want you to grab your mobile device. And if that's not convenient, you can just open a new tab in your browser. Then I want you to go to www.menti.com and enter this code. It's 971858.5. That's 971858.5. And then just click Submit. On the next page that comes up, enter your first name and then click the Submit button again. So I hope you have it. It's there on your screen. Let's have a moment of silence together as we virtually stand up for survivors. And now we can start to see some of the names as they appear on your screen and populate the page. All of these people standing up in solidarity for survivors of sexual assault, or standing up if they know someone who has been impacted. So many names. And you can see as people's names are added, we are just so grateful that you are here this morning and being loud for KCSARC. This is a visual that you can carry with you all year. And, you know, it's such a powerful demonstration of how many of us have been affected or know people who have been affected by sexual violence. And with your caring, your solidarity, and support, we can bring light and hope to victims of sexual assault. Because you never know who you are impacting when you support KCSARC. It could be your neighbor, it could be your coworker, it could be someone in your book club. You just never know who around you has been impacted by sexual assault and who you are supporting by making sure programs at KCSARC continue to thrive. So I would love if you could donate now to ensure survivors and their families get the help they need when they need it. You can open a door with your gift this morning. So thank you for being willing to virtually stand with us in a new way today. Clearly, you are not alone in this. Let's meet some more proud and vocal Be Loud advocates.
I am loud because everyone deserves a light of hope in their lives. No one should have to be a sexual assault victim, but many are. The output that KCSARC delivers is critical to so many lives, and our foundation is proud to support KCSARC in any way that we can. So let's be loud and give everyone a chance to thrive.
I am loud so survivors can hear that they're not alone.
I am loud because I believe survivors should feel seen, heard, and supported. Being loud empowers and encourages survivors to tell their stories and seek justice, which is an important part of healing.
I am loud because I think all kids should have a voice and be heard. We support survivors.
Thank you, Paula V., Dan, Veronica, and Berenice. All right, it is time to check in our journey together. So let's take a look at the thermometer and see the collective progress that we've made today. And right now, here is where we are. We can see the thermometer filling up. Oh, that is so awesome. We have 683 of you who have made gifts today, and we are so appreciative. Look at that. We're nearly at $475,000 of our $600,000 goal this morning. So thank you. We are very grateful for your support. Here are just a few names of the donors whose gifts we've just received coming in, and so I want to share with you. And again, these are just a couple of the names that we have from the many, many donors this morning. Frank and Charlene Blethen, Julie Gelfison, Eric Hogan, Paul Sanford, and Donna Smith. Thank you. Thank you so much for your very kind and generous donations today. We appreciate you, and thank you to all of you who have given so far. There is still time to make a gift. So here's a reminder. There are multiple ways to support KCSARC today. You can just follow the instructions on the screen to make your gifts now. Our next speaker has really made it her life's work to end sexual assault. Her passion, her leadership, and her vision on this issue have translated into bold and loud actions. Please welcome KCSARC's Executive Director and my friend, Mary Ellen Stone.
Thanks, Margot. And boy, in any other year, we'd all be together. I miss seeing all of you in person. My heart is warm to know that you're all out there with us. In any other year, I'd be asking you to stand like you did on screen and do what you can to help victims become survivors. And I'd be also talking with you about how we can together prevent sexual assault from ever happening. I don't need to remind you that this was a year we would really soon rather forget. And this format is new, and we'd love your feedback on it once we get through this. But let me give you a couple snapshots from last year, because while it was a very difficult year, I want you to know that we helped almost 5,000 victims and their families. Now, the way we did that looked different, but we were there for victims and their families who called every single day. Last March, when the governor's stay-at-home order was put in place, we were able to move very quickly. Now, we're mental health and crisis specialists, so we were on the front line as anxieties mounted and these really compounded feelings of fear and depression and isolation that many victims feel in normal times. And really, this situation made it much more difficult. Our 24-hour resource line staff responded as they always do, with enormous compassion, with intelligence and insight. We were hearing from many survivors who we had worked with pre-pandemic, as well as parents whose children had been victimized years earlier. And they were feeling the effects of the shutdown in some different ways, and really struggling with a lot of things. And they called us for reassurance, for support, and in many cases, a refresher on the coping skills that they had learned to deal with the sexual assault. Our clinical team went from seeing therapy clients in their offices one week to seeing them on a HIPAA-compliant Zoom from their homes the next week. We never missed a session. And neither did our clients, even though that was meaning for several of them an early morning session while the kids were still sleeping, or having therapy in the bathroom or the car, because that was the one private place in the house. Our staff who advocate for victims in the legal system worked really hard to figure out what the 39 police jurisdictions, 8 CPS officers, 3 courts were doing in taking reports, holding hearings, granting early or home release for people who have been charged or convicted of sexual assaults. We made sure the victims had safety plans in place and that they knew, at least for that day, what the system was going to be doing. And when everything else came to a standstill last year, something that didn't stop was sexual assault. There was never a pause in sexual violence. And over the last 12 months, we've been hearing some different nuances. In some situations, they're positive. We're hearing about children telling their parents about assaults that happened a while back. but this sort of forced time at home has really created some space for kids to share an experience that they hadn't done so. In other cases, it's much more concerning. We all know that children and younger children are online a lot now, and we're hearing certainly about them being approached and groomed online. And we don't know the full extent of what's happening, especially with child sexual abuse. And we probably won't know that until we start coming out of this pandemic some more. Now, our prevention work this last year moved from being in person with students in middle schools to online, helping teachers figure out how to respond, how to keep their kids safe, their students safe and engaged. We were able to develop videos and online prevention tools, and we're able to get those out well. Now, we're mental health specialists, so we talk about resiliency all the time with our clients. Now we're talking about that with everyone. We're talking about with our staff, with our partners, and with our communities. And you are part of what made us be able to do what we've done. You stood with us as supporters. So many of you reached out to say, how can I help? When it was possible, you increased your giving. You sent messages of support that we shared with staff that were really heartfelt and really were very encouraging. And I know there are a lot of elected officials with us today. Thank you for your help in recognizing the impacts that we and our community are facing. It's been extraordinarily helpful. This has not been an easy time. It's one thing to literally stand with someone in a courtroom or sit across from a child in a therapy session listening to their story. It's a whole nother thing to convey compassion, empathy, connection via Zoom from your home, while at the same time you're balancing your own worries about your kids, your elderly parents, or perhaps your own health. Our staff did an extraordinary job. Each and every one of you stood up, you worked hard, and you met this mission. You met this moment. And I have never been more proud of what we've been able to do. And I do also want to thank our tremendous board of directors and advisory cabinet members. You have been a rock. You have endured countless Zoom meetings. You have really stood with us, and you never wavered. And what that allowed us to do is to be there for victims and their families in the way that we needed to do. Now, you've been hearing today about how all of our services are available in Spanish. When 25% of the victims we help identify as Latinx. And we all know that the pandemic has made inequities across race and income come into sharp view. This really impacted the victims that we help every day. For example, we've always provided some assistance for things like rent or transportation as connected to the sexual assault. So it's a situation where a young woman is raped in her apartment by the landlord and has to move, but she can't afford the deposit and first and last month's rent. Sometimes we can help with that. Or it's the family who has to leave their home because the father and main financial provider has also been assaulting 2 of the 3 children. And without financial support, the family is faced with the choice of living in their car or going back to that home. We can get that family connected to other services, and we've always done that kind of work. But as a measure of what's been happening, the number of people, both in sheer numbers and dollars, doubled and could have tripled had we had the resources to push out to people. The pandemic, as we know, has shown the systemic barriers to getting support that are deep, and they have to be addressed if we want people to heal from sexual assault. Now, we know sexual assault spans all races and genders, sectors and backgrounds. And yet, Black women and Black girls, Native women and girls are more likely to be sexually assaulted and less likely to experience the legal system as a resource for them, for their families, or for their communities. Sexual assault doesn't exist in a silo, and we've always known that. I think we need to more clearly acknowledge how it intersects with issues of sexism, of racism, and some of the really stark economic inequalities that have been so clear over these past 12 months. As an organization, we're continuing to learn and evolve and improve, That has always been a motto for us of how can we do better. And this year we're engaging in some internal anti-racism and equity work so that we can even more authentically stand with all of our communities to navigate the impact of sexual assault and sexual violence in their lives. Because our role is to offer community support that is culturally relevant, accessible, confidential, and to amplify survivor voices to those systems that don't prioritize their experiences. Now, again, these 12 months, we are so interconnected, and that a healthy community free of sexual assault is something that we all have to create together. It's a community where healthy relationships are the norm, not the exception, where respect and consent are action words, not simply concepts, and that when violence happens, it's the exception, and it's responded to with accountability for the harm done and tools to change behavior. And when the criminal legal system is involved, validates victims' experiences rather than minimizes it. This pandemic has showed us that too many barriers to basic justice and protection, and we are working hard to get those removed. There's, healthy communities, resiliency, accountability. We have been talking about that so much these past couple months. What we also need to do is challenge the structures and beliefs that tolerate or encourage sexual assault and sexual violence. And that's all part of making a healthy community. And it includes understanding the intersection between violence and inequity. And we have got to do better with prevention education. Prevention in the home, in our schools, in places that we gather. We have made some progress, but there is a long ways to go. And I want to remind us all that prevention is a group activity. It is not just one agency, one organization doing this alone. It is something that we all need to be doing together. We can't talk about healthy communities without saying, how do we prevent sexual violence? How do we create healthy relationships? So, 3 things. This comes as every breakfast. I give you 3 things to do. Next month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We're launching a podcast, like everybody else, but it's called Building Resilience, and this is for parents and educators. Help us get this out. Watch your inbox, your social feed, share it with the adults who who have young people in their lives, and if you have young people who have adults in their lives, share it with them as well. We want to get this out broadly because we know a lot about resiliency. Another thing that we know is that when somebody tells somebody about their experience of sexual assault, that first reaction is really important. Many of you have had people share their experiences with you, particularly at the breakfast. We want to help you even more with that, and so we'll be sending out a tool for you so that you can feel even more confident in your response of how to respond when someone tells you this too is part of their experience. And of course, that we're here 24/7 to help you with that. Finally, we need you to be strong. We need you to be loud, but we need you to be strong. So we'll be sending you some tips on building your own resilience and staying strong no matter what challenges come our way. And we're going to all be using that at this time. Thank you. I miss you. I look forward to seeing you in person. And I now want to introduce you to even more members of our community who have decided to stand up and be loud.
I am loud for you. I am loud for you because, like you, I did not have the words, the vocabulary to describe. I am loud so that your voice and my voice can reach the ears who can bear witness to our stories. I am loud so one day you can be loud for others too.
I am loud because sexual assault and all forms of sexual violence are an attack on who we are as a community. I am loud because it is the duty of us all to create safe environments for everyone and to lead the charge for change. For too long, the burden of this crime has rested on the shoulders of its victims and their loved ones, and it is time to declare loudly that you are heard, you are not alone, and that we stand with you.
I am loud for the victims that lay in their own beds in their own home, afraid to sleep because their protector is their abuser. I am loud for the victims that traumatically suffered the aftermath of the abuse. I will gladly be the voice for those who are suffering silently.
Thank you, Rituja, Mayor Backus, and Anna. It is time now to check in and see just how close we are to our goal this morning. So let's get another look at our thermometer, and you will see it there on your screen shortly as we tally up our gifts this morning, and all of your generosity is just amazing. Look at that, 738 donors this morning. And look at this, we are so close to our goal of $600,000. We are just over $591,000, so just a short ways away from our goal. And we just thank you so much. Here are just a few names of the donors whose gifts we've received this morning. Mel and Mary Butler, thank you. Lisa Peterson, Pat St. Laurent, Kate Sullivan, Bonnie Main. Thank you, all of you. And these are just a few of the names. As you can see, we've just had tremendous turnout, and we thank you. It really is appreciated, and we know that you are supporting and being loud for KCSARC. So thank you to all of you who have given so far. And for those of you who haven't, there still is a little time to make your gift. And with your support, we can continue to equip young people with the tools that they need to stop sexual assault from happening. We can make sure that young survivors whose trauma is compounded by homelessness get the help they need. We can ensure that a victim who is afraid to report due to language barriers or immigration status is understood and supported with compassion. So Be Loud is designed to emphasize the positive things KCSARC is doing to rebuild lives and rekindle hope and joy. Let's hear from a few supporters whose voices are loudly leading the way to rekindle that hope and joy in survivors' lives.
We've been longtime supporters of KCSARC because we believe in their mission. We love their advocacy, education, and prevention.
The therapy that they provide to victims and in helping those victims find peace and justice in their lives.
So it's easy to support KCSARC, and we all have to.
When I get to talk to my clients and colleagues and friends about KCSARC, the way that I describe the organization is that there isn't an organization in this region that I couldn't be more grateful that does exist, and I couldn't wish it needed to exist less.
I support KCSARC because it saves lives. KCSARC means that sexual assault victims have a voice, that they can recognize when they're in a dangerous situation and know that there's a safe place for them to go for protection, guidance, and healing. KCSARC is an essential part of our community safety net, and I'm so grateful for all the work that they do. I hope that you will join me in supporting this tremendous organization.
Thank you, Paula, Jeff, Rob, and Mayor Robinson for being loud. For everyone watching at home, this is your moment to be loud with your investment in KCSARC. We're so close. I use the term investment intentionally. When you invest in KCSARC, you invest in our community, you invest in survivors, you invest in making the world a kinder, more humane, and more compassionate place. I encourage you to stretch as far as you can. If you have not given already, now is the time. If you've already given, guess what? You can give again. If you came with an amount you were planning on giving, I ask you to double or even triple that amount. This is an extraordinary time, and we need you to take extraordinary action. We're asking those of you who can give to stretch your gift to support KCSARC survivors and their families. There are multiple ways to give today. Instructions are on the screen and in the chat. Without your support, KCSARC might not be there to comfort that frightened first-time caller, ready to meet them where they're at, with whatever they need. KCSARC might not be there with prevention education to stop sexual violence from happening in our communities, might not be there to help transform culture. Your investment today ensures KCSARC programs don't just continue but thrive. And remember, thanks to our challenge pool donors, your donations are being matched. So now is the time. Giving today is one great way to do good in challenging times. You'll never regret having supported a survivor on their journey to healing. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Laura. Let's celebrate two very generous groups of supporters, and that's our sponsors and our Challenge Pool donors. So we want to let our sponsors know how much we appreciate you. Thank you to our hero sponsor, Expeditors. Thank you, too, to our media sponsor, the Seattle Times. Thank you to our visionary sponsors, the Archdiocese of Seattle, Amazon, Schrader, Goldmark and Bender, T-Mobile, and Zevenbergen Capital Investments. Thank you to our champion sponsors, Rushing and Vulcan. Thank you, too, to our advocate sponsors. You know, it's just incredible to see so many new sponsors among our longtime supporters. And thank you, too, to our partner sponsors. What a fantastic group of corporate partners. So thank you for your incredible generosity and support. Another special thank you to our Challenge Pool donors who graciously came together, as Laura mentioned, to create a match of up to $107,000. So just my deepest gratitude for your commitment to KCSARC and to survivors of sexual assault and their families. So we've almost reached the end of our journey together today, and now this is the moment that we have all been waiting for. We're going to make a last check of our thermometer here, so let's take a look. And as the thermometer fills up here, and look at that, 752 donors, and we have exceeded our goal. We are now at $610,423. Our goal was $600,000. We are so excited and just so grateful and appreciative for the people who have supported KCSARC for so many years and who have made gifts today. Just incredible, Mary Ellen.
We thank you so much. Thank you. This means a lot in so many ways. And thank you for standing with us, and you know we're here. Well, I meant to say more about how people could give.
Yeah, we can do that. If you haven't donated yet, or if you want to make another donation, the donation link is going to stay open for donations until 11:59 tonight. 11:59 tonight. So you can give, and that way you can be counted as someone who supports survivors of sexual assault. So truly extraordinary, Mary Ellen.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And it's just so amazing what we can do together when we all come together and really be united in imagining a world free of sexual assault. So we are grateful to all of you who attended today. We appreciate your Be Loud actions of support. And truly, we're here to help one another. We're here to help others be loud and share KCSARC's vision of hope, of progress, healing, and prevention. And as always, I am thrilled to have been your MC this morning. So thank you for standing with survivors of sexual assault, and thank you for making our first ever virtual Be Loud breakfast so very successful. We hope to see you in person next year. We miss you. So have a great rest of your day, and now go out and be loud.
Thank you.